Static. Choosing a static IP address is the digital equivalent of building a house on a permanent foundation with a fixed street address. While most of the devices we use daily, like our smartphones and tablets, prefer the nomadic lifestyle of dynamic addressing, certain critical components of a network infrastructure must remain exactly where they are. They need a permanent identity that never changes, ensuring that every other device on the network knows exactly how to find them, day or night, through every reboot and power cycle. The anchor of the infrastructure. In a standard networking environment, we use static addresses for what we call the anchors. These are the hosts that provide services to everyone else. If their IP address were to change suddenly, the entire system would experience a service blackout. Servers, whether it is a web server, a database, or a local file server, these devices must have a static IP if the server's address changed from 192.168.1.10 to something else. Every employee trying to access their files would receive a file not found error. Printers, network printers are the classic example. When you install a printer on your laptop, the computer often maps that printer to its specific IP address. If the printer receives a new address from the router, your computer will keep sending the print jobs to the old address, and nothing will ever come out of the paper tray. Network hardware, routers, managed switches, and wireless access points are the skeleton of your network. As a technician, you need to be able to log into these devices to manage them. If they were dynamic, you would have to hunt for their new addresses every time you wanted to check a security log or update the firmware. Gateways, as we explored previously, the default gateway is the most important static address in the building. It is the exit sign that every other host relies on to reach the internet. The administrative responsibility. The primary difference between a static and a dynamic address is who makes the decision. With dynamic addressing, the DHCP server makes the decision automatically. With a static address, you, the administrator, make the decision. When you assign a static address, you are manually carving it into the device's configuration. This creates a significant administrative burden. You must ensure that you never assign the same IP address to two different devices. If you accidentally give the same address to a server and a desktop, you create an IP address conflict. In this scenario, both devices will fight over the address, leading to dropped connections and erratic behavior that can be very difficult to troubleshoot. To manage this, professional technicians use an IP address management or IPAM strategy. You set aside a specific range of numbers, for example, .1 through .50, specifically for static devices. You then configure your DHCP server to only hand out addresses starting from .51 and up. This creates a safe zone where your permanent infrastructure can live without fear of being bumped by a dynamic guest. The cybersecurity perspective, a double-edged sword. From a security and digital forensics standpoint, static addressing is a trade-off between visibility and predictability. The benefit of static addressing is accountability. When you are looking at your security logs and you see a massive data transfer occurring at 3 in the morning from 192.168.1.5, you don't have to guess who it was. You know exactly which server that is. This makes it much easier to track down unauthorized access or detect data exfiltration. However, the downside is predictability. If a hacker performs reconnaissance on your network, they are looking for targets that stay still. Once they identify your high-value targets, like your database server or your domain controller, they know they will always be at the same address. They can spend days or weeks carefully crafting an attack, knowing the target isn't going to move. This is why it is critical to protect your static devices with robust firewall rules and intrusion detection systems. Troubleshooting the static connection. When a device with a static address fails to connect, the problem is almost always a human error in the configuration. Because the device isn't talking to a DHCP server, it has no one to correct its mistakes. As a technician, you must verify the 3 pillars of the connection. The IP address. Is it unique? Use a different computer to try and ping the address before you assign it to make sure no one else is using it. The subnet mask. This must match the rest of the network perfectly. If it is off by even one digit, the device might be able to talk to its neighbors but will be unable to reach the gateway. The default gateway. If this address is typed incorrectly, the static device is trapped. The local room. It will be unable to download updates or talk to any cloud-based services. By mastering the precise, manual assignment of static addresses, you ensure that the most important anchors of your network remain reliable, findable, and secure.